Welcome to Speaking of Pets.
We're the Novotny sisters from Cleveland, Ohio.
I'm Dr. Alice Novotny Jeromin, a board-certified veterinary dermatologist.
And I'm not. I'm Janet Novotny King, the doctor's sister, podcast co-host, pet owner, rescuer, and lover.
We're here to provide pet owners with science-based information to help them be the best pet parents they can be.
Here's today's episode, created just for you and your pets.
Hey everyone, welcome to Speaking of Pets. Great to see everyone again. We are so fortunate today to have Dr. Susan Wynn, who is a veterinary internal medicine specialist in nutrition. She is now the Senior Director of Scientific Affairs with Nature's Variety in St. Louis. And just a little bit about her background. Her vet degree is from University of Georgia. She did her internship in DC, a postdoc fellowship in viral immunology. Love that, because that's changing every day at Emory. And then her residency was at University of Tennessee, Knoxville.
Oh, wow.
She's the former president of the American Holistic Veterinary Medical Association and the American Academy of Veterinary Acupuncture. Venipuncture. I just had a blood draw the other day, so it's still on my mind. But anyway, I also love this. She's the founder of the Veterinary Botanical Medical Association. And if for those of you who aren't familiar with botanicals, that is using natural substances to treat disease. And I am such a fan of Let Food Be Thy Medicine that I can't wait to talk to her about that off camera. But anyway, she was in clinical practice for 31 years and with Blue Pearl. And now, as I mentioned before, she is now the Senior Director of Scientific Affairs with Nature's Variety. So what does that mean? That means she is my go-to person whenever I have anyone asking me about raw diets. Example, yesterday at the dentist, my dental hygienist was telling me her daughter just got a new puppy and she's feeding it raw liver. Let me tell you right from the get-go, before we bring Dr. Wynn on, that is not nutritionally balanced. So we're going to talk about the ins and outs of raw diets, and in my opinion, Instinct Raw Diet does it right. And we're going to talk about why they do it right, the pros and cons of a raw diet, and I can't thank you enough, Susan Wynn and JC Cash, her associate, who's joining us today.
Wow, thanks for joining us, Dr. Wynn. And JC, this is great. I don't know much about raw diets. I know it's a lot of talk amongst my pet-friendly friends. So why don't we start with, what does your company do, and how did you get there? Does that make sense?
Sure.
This special raw diet that I know is treated as special.
And what is a raw diet?
Yeah.
I mean, some people have misconceptions about what a raw diet really is.
Yeah. To me, that's celery and carrots, but anyway.
Well, I'll start out just by introducing you to Instinct, since that's where I am. Instinct got its start 20 plus years ago. This was in the early 2000s when a cattle producer in Lincoln, Nebraska, was asked, I think he had some ties to the university, but he was asked by the zoo to help supply some meat. The tigers apparently were having some reproductive difficulties and they didn't look good. And so they were going to try what they considered to be a Paleolithic diet, the diet that these tigers would eat in the wild. And apparently their health turned around to such a degree that it shocked everyone. And this is how Instinct, at the time called Nature's Variety, started. This sort of happened at the same time that raw diets were becoming a thing in the U.S. They were popular in Australia for some time before that. And then there's this book came out, a veterinarian had published on his experience. He thought that, his name was Ian Billinghurst, and he thought that compared to his childhood, dogs and cats seemed less healthy. Their coats were terrible. They just seemed to get diseases that they didn't before. And that's its own problem, what we sort of believe that we saw and what we think we believe now. But we can discuss that at some other time. But the point being, he wrote this book and it caught on. And in the late 90s, people began feeding raw. And it is, it has a few definitions. I'm going to tell you that my definition is a raw diet isn't cooked, period. It's the simplest of all. It's not cooked. But there, if you look it up, people will define it as a diet of uncooked meat, edible bones, and organs, and then it may or may not have other ingredients like fruits and vegetables. It is not that simple, though, honestly. It's grown beyond that, and now we have to talk about raw diets a little differently, because in the 90s, they were all homemade. Now, in this current environment, there are a lot of commercial raw diets, and they vary in quality. And so at this point, we really can't talk about a raw diet. We have to say homemade raw diets or commercial raw diets. So that was a long answer to a simple question. Sorry.
No, that makes total sense, because when I talk to clients about raw diet, to be honest with you, very few are on a commercial one. They think that if I just give meat and pasta, a protein and a carb to my dog, that's all I need to do, because in the wild, that's what they eat. And I think
that's pasta in the wild. There's the old Italian grandma making the gnocchi in the wild, right?
Right, but the thing, that's hard misinformation to break down, really.
Yes, it is. And there's so much to talk about there. We can talk about balanced diets, but I do want to just mention about this whole Paleolithic diet thing.
Okay.
Because that is a big belief about why dogs and cats might do better on a raw diet. First of all, the Paleolithic diet, we do not have the ability, nobody really has the ability to copy that because of a lot of things. First of all, the wildlife that tigers or wolves would eat are quite different from what we can get in the store. They are what they eat, right? And so their muscles and their organs actually do contain different amino acids and different polyphenols and things like that. The other point to be made is that when they eat the whole prey, they're doing things like eating blood, which we do not have access to. Again, we don't buy that in the store, and they're eating other things that we don't, they're eating tendons, which we don't get in the grocery store. I mean, there are all sorts of parts of the animals. But the other thing is this belief that wolves and tigers and wild animals are much healthier than our pets. They are not. There have been studies. They don't have the life expectancy. And, yes, a Paleolithic diet can have all of the essential nutrients, but what we've done with science is determine what amounts of those essential nutrients and the proportions, the ratios of those essential nutrients lead to a longer and healthier life. So I think that we can do a much better job than the Paleolithic diet can do to keep on our animals much healthier.
Well, it must have turned on the tigers.
The other thing, Dr. Wynn, when I was watching some of Instinct's webinars, which I thought was fascinating, you all buy your protein source from a certain source. It's not like you go to the grocery and pick the chicken out. You know what I mean? Which could come from God only knows where, really. So can you talk about that? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. It's just part of our quality control, a small part of our quality control. But, one of the things that we have to do is qualify our suppliers. And so there are certainly suppliers that we don't qualify, that we wouldn't have any part of. And
I love that.
Yeah. What we have to do is look at the way they source their proteins and how they handle them, how they process them, how they store them, how they distribute them and get them to us. And so we want to make sure that they are safe once they get to us. And we do tests to make sure that bacterial load is not high when it gets to us. So I think it's really important to be able to do that. And certainly there are raw diet manufacturers that don't do that. A lot of for instance, the mom and pops, they're going to get what they can that costs the least. And you're right, quality there is really questionable.
And the mom and pop, I don't see science or research behind them. That bothers me too. I mean, I see you guys have done studies on digestibility. Is it I can't even remember the
Metabolomics.
Yes, thank you. There's a metabolomic thing that, and I find that fascinating because to me, I'm open-minded. I love to learn. And what I was telling JC before we came on the air is, even as a pharmacist, which was my profession before being a vet, drugs we used 20 years ago that we thought were the best now are contraindicated. And so you've got to stay open-minded, because what we're finding out today is not necessarily the Bible. It may be contraindicated in 10 years from now. That's why I love the research you're doing. And you're doing research, but you're also dispelling some of the myths at the same time. For mom and pop to go buy those chicken necks and put it in the food bowl, and then they don't wash the food bowl after that. That drives me nuts too.
Well, you bring up research. Be careful what you ask for, because I love it. I love, and I love the fact that we've been able to do so much. I mean, we have, yes. I mean, I think the food basics, such as digestibility trials and testing your formulas to make sure that they still are complete and balanced the way they were when you formulated them. To me, that's just basic quality control, right? But the step beyond that, and any raw company really should be doing that kind of thing. And those are the questions that pet owners should be asking if they are researching a company. But the step beyond is scientific research, trying to determine whether, in fact, raw feeding is better and healthier. And we have all kinds of really interesting studies. You said metabolomics. We are doing metabolomics, and those results aren't available yet. But there are metabolomic studies available from some other companies. These are fresh, cooked.
I just read yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
I just read that one yesterday.
That's a lot of news yesterday. And while raw is not the same as fresh cooked, we've done some internal studies that say that fresh cooked is somewhere on a spectrum between raw and ultra pasteurized, depending on what you measure, and that's another subject. But anyway, the metabolomic studies on the foods that are fresher than ultra processed, like kibble and canned foods, do show benefits. And their metabolomics is such a new area, I'm not sure that we even understand all those benefits.
Would you define that? Because Janet, I know you don't know what it means. I can't even say it. But reading that article yesterday, I kind of got it. But explain a little bit about that, would you, Dr. Wynn?
I'm no expert, but the way I understand metabolomics is looking at the products of metabolism. So the end products. And when you look at the end products of one sort of set of metabolic reactions, you can make you can draw some conclusions about whether or not that set of metabolic reactions is active over another set of metabolic reactions.
Right.
And so the way all of the levels of the various different metabolic products, that can tell you what's going on in the body. So at any rate, it looks like there are benefits to feeding minimally processed foods, and we've got some of those coming. We also have done some studies on gut microbiome and raw, and as it turns out, it's funny because there's somebody out there who's lecturing right now, right this second, not this very moment, but you get it, telling veterinarians that raw food is bad for the gut microbiome. And in fact, there are studies showing exactly the opposite, more studies than show anything else. And we just finished a study showing that our food is good for the gut microbiome. And then we've got some other interesting studies that I'm not sure that I can talk about them yet, but I will just say we studied giving raw to senior dogs, and some of the things that afflict senior dogs, it turns out, are improved by feeding raw. So more to come on that.
Hey, did you know that Blue Buffalo makes prescription diets that are formulated by animal nutritionists and veterinarians? And they're used for dietary needs such as kidney support, gastrointestinal support, weight management, and our favorite, allergy and skin problems.
They make a food allergic diet that's an alligator-based called NP, or a hydrolyzed salmon-based for dogs and cats called HF.
So please, ask your veterinarian about Blue Buffalo prescription diets.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry. Some of you know me as Grandpa Larry, and I run Larry's Animal Safari on YouTube, where we share sweet and educational videos about baby gorillas, zoo animals, and the amazing teams who care for them. If you love animals of all kinds, I'd love to have you join us. You'll meet little ones like Jamila and Kayembe, learn how zoo families grow, and enjoy real moments that bring joy and curiosity to animal lovers everywhere. Just search Larry's Animal Safari on YouTube or click the link in the show notes. New videos go up weekly, and each one supports awareness for animal care and conservation. Thanks to Speaking of Pets podcast for all they do. Now, let's get back to the show.
Janet, and I know you're not, and this is a good one too, about the, what is it, advanced glycation end products, because that applies to humans as well. Am I not?
Absolutely. They are toxic
Yeah,
to
this
both
is
humans and
fascinating.
dogs and cats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Advanced glycation end products is just one set of what we call process-induced toxins. So process-induced toxins basically form when you processed food, and probably more, we're talking more about heat processing than anything else. And so that applies to kibble, to canned food, and to air dehydrated foods. And depending on how the food is formulated, what the ingredients are, different sets of these toxins will form. In humans, it's absolutely, for instance, heterocyclic amines have been associated with cancer. Acrylamides have been associated with cancer. These advanced glycation end products have been associated with diabetes, kidney disease, lung disease, arthritis, cancer, cardiovascular disease. I mean, the list goes on. And essentially what happens is if you eat a lot of these in your diet, then those problems are going to be much worse. And they come from certain types of processing. In humans, it's frying and roasting. And again, it depends on what you eat. By the way, I should probably say this because it's a criticism when we who are into fresh diets talk about AGEs. And when we talk about processed foods for humans, that includes foods that are very poor. They're nutrient poor. They're truly junk foods. Whereas processed foods for dogs and cats are generally complete and balanced. And so nutritionists would say that they're not junk foods. And I totally agree as a nutritionist, they're not junk foods. However, they do have their problems. And so just because it comes up in these discussions, I had to say it.
No, that makes sense. It's not Lunchables.
Right.
So, Dr. Wynn, would you talk now about the safety of it? Of, like I'm afraid in these mom and pop companies, like I've had clients tell me, well, I feed raw because the stomach acids destroy any bad stuff. And then, of course, I just go crazy. But tell us about Instinct's program for quality control and bacteria and all that jazz.
Absolutely. I love talking about that. And
yes,
we hear this more than anything else. If you look at the smaller raw companies, they will tell you that dogs and cats cannot be made ill by the pathogens that are in food. And this is absolutely not the case. There are plenty of publications. I've collected them and happy to supply them to anybody who doubts me. But yeah, our quality control, I mean, we believe it's the highest in the industry. And it starts with, as you brought up, qualifying our suppliers. And as I said, we do turn some away. And so we make sure that our suppliers are the best that you can get. And we test as they come in. And then once the foods are mixed together, and I should probably stop there and say our products are complete and balanced because that's a safety issue. And we make sure that they're complete and balanced by using software, and then we test to make sure the software is telling us the truth. And then we keep testing for months and years as long as the product is in the market. So that's one safety sort of step that should be taken aside from making sure that they are complete and balanced. So we mix the food, and once it's mixed, it goes off to undergo it goes off to our own facility to undergo high pressure pasteurization or HPP. High pressure pasteurization, it could sound scary to some people, but if you have eaten lunch meat, if you've eaten salsa, if you've eaten bottled juices and smoothies, if you've eaten frozen dinners, those all undergo HPP. It's very prevalent in human foods. And so HPP is how we kill the pathogens that are found in raw meat and vegetables, mostly raw meat. And then when HPP is done, we test to make sure that those pathogens are not there and that they're killed. If it tests positive, we do not send that batch out. We then make sure that everything is maintained at all the right temperatures before it goes out. Another sort of aspect of our safety, we were the first raw company to make sure that our facilities were certified for safe quality food. It's an independent certification.
Oh, the SQF. I was going
SQF.
to ask you about that.
Yes, SQF is this independent quality certification, and their requirements are more rigorous than FDA's through the Food Safety Modernization Act, FSMA. So now there are a few other raw food companies that have SQF certification, but we've been certified for both safety and quality for some time. So that's sort of a very high overview. And the only other thing I'll say is that all of our processes are all under one roof. We now have the entire, from start to finish under our control. All of our facilities are ours. We don't use any co-packers. So that gives us a lot of confidence about our safety as well.
How do you know? Like, I'm on your website, and I don't know if Libby likes chicken, pollock, lamb. How do you decide as a pet owner what they're going to like? It's not like we're at Costco having a sample.
That's a really good question. I mean, when I was in practice,
because there's a lot of choices.
Yeah, I got that a lot, and really, sometimes you're restricted by, or you are informed by what your dog or cat ate before or didn't like before, but otherwise. Unfortunately, it's trial and error. And I'll tell you that most healthy dogs aren't really picky. They should not be picky. And in fact, I was just talking with a nutritionist last week. If you have a picky dog, we are immediately suspicious that your dog either isn't well or your dog is overweight. Because overweight does make them sort of want to cut back, and we interpret that as being picky, which it's not. So yeah, trial and error, but if they're picky, probably something needs to be addressed.
Our dog is not.
See what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So in that case, I will say that we do believe in variety, and this started out many years ago, saying, maybe they shouldn't be eating the same flavor of the same kibble every meal of every day of their lives. And then that was sort of that progressed to maybe they should eat different flavors of kibble and then different brands, because every brand has a feeding philosophy, right? There are some who believe in high protein and some that don't. But now that fresh foods are available, we say, really, you should introduce fresh foods. And if you can afford it, feed fresh foods, unprocessed foods, raw foods, as much as you possibly can. So we've progressed. But yes, I think that variety is important.
So what is like the difference? Is it 25% more, 30% more expensive to buy raw diet on average? I have no idea.
Oh, yeah, I never thought about the
I'm a
cost.
consumer, right? My dog, because it's easy. But if I'm considering this, like, what's the price difference? Is it 50% more? Is it?
Honestly, I haven't done those calculations. Maybe JC has done them, but I haven't done those, and I would bet you that fresh fruit is twice as expensive. What do you think, JC?
Oh yeah, it's a definite. I definitely back in my clinic days, small dogs, toy breeds, fantastic. You could really get you could really afford to get them on 100% safe commercial raw diet. And once you do that, especially within a practice, man, you can see things turn around really fast. It's the large dogs that your heart goes, oh, because it's so expensive. To feed, but we try to really meet people where they're at, and if they can use it as a topper, almost like the idea of feeding your kids macaroni and cheese, but you're trying to get a little side of broccoli on there. It's that kind of philosophy. Feed as healthy as you can. It's obviously as safe and complete and balanced is the key there. But we really want to meet people where they're at, and if they have to use it as a topper for their big dogs, they can figure out how much they can afford to feed of it, great. But it is definitely more expensive than just a traditional kibble.
And we have some data actually that says that even if 25% of their diet is raw, there's some benefit. There's a health benefit there, and the more the better.
So, JC, your job is to get out there and educate veterinarians. What is your biggest challenge out in the field?
Biggest challenge. Well,
Like the door gets slammed in your face? I'm kidding. Like,
yeah, I will say when we probably started going to all of our major veterinary conferences about 4 years ago, the major challenge, right, is the kind of belief system that all raw is the same raw, right? Most people in vet med tend to think that when you're talking about raw, you're talking about all these disastrous, hot mess, homemade raw diets, right? Those are not safe. You can't consistently, create a, complete and balanced diet. Even folks that, are like, oh, it's locally sourced, it's so much better. No, they're still pathogens. So, really getting into those conferences and really talking to the vet community that things have changed. We have more research. There are companies like us that do fantastic, safety measures. Most folks in vet med, they've never even heard of a high pressure pasteurization, that it's an FDA approved, pathogen mitigation process. So education has kind of been where it's at. A lot of folks have really pushed back because it's an old belief system of like, you can't make safe rats. So really, it's been a transition and a big, right, us really filling an education gap that no, you can make a complete and balanced, safe commercial raw diet. Let us help you understand, how
I'll just add to that the two main, areas of pushback are, number one, that raw can't be safe. And we do have to have this conversation about commercial versus homemade. And the second one is, well, even if you could make it safe, there's no benefit. And I mean, we see this all over the place. They say there are no studies saying that raw is better. Well, it's absolutely not the truth. There actually are, and more coming, every day.
Blue Buffalo natural veterinary diets offer a natural alternative in nutritional therapy. With their in-house research and development team with over 300 years experience in well pet and veterinary therapeutic diets, more than 600 scientific publications, and more than 50 U.S. patents. Blue Buffalo natural veterinary diets.
Hi everyone, I'm Larry. Some of you know me as Grandpa Larry. And I run Larry's Animal Safari on YouTube, where we share sweet and educational videos about baby gorillas, zoo animals, and the amazing teams who care for them. If you love animals of all kinds, I'd love to have you join us. You'll meet little ones like Jamila and Kayembe, learn how zoo families grow, and enjoy real moments that bring joy and curiosity to animal lovers everywhere. Just search Larry's Animal Safari on YouTube, or click the link in the show notes. New videos go up weekly, and each one supports awareness for animal care and conservation. Thanks to Speaking of Pets podcast for all they do. Now, let's get back to the show.
In our vet school education, we learn nothing about food processing, veterinary diet processing, raw or processed. I mean, it's really a gap. And maybe, JC, when you guys are setting up at conferences, because none of us have ever been educated in it, you hit a wall, because this is what we were always told, so it has to be. You got to be open-minded. You just have to. And that's why I wanted you guys on today, because I get a lot of questions about, even though I'm retired, I get a lot of questions about raw diet. I myself want to know more about raw diet and fresh foods. And to me, from everything I've read, instinct seems to do it right. You've got the research, you've got the high pressure pasteurization, you've got the SQF, I was going to say SRQ, which is Sarasota Airport. But no, and I really think people need to open their options as to, we all want these pets to live a long, wonderful, healthy life. And we're seeing a lot of chronic disease due to chronic inflammation. What is driving that? If it's processing, we need to do something about it.
Yeah, I wish
Sorry, I had to get on my soapbox.
I wish everybody felt the same way that you did, because
well, and that's Dr. Wynn. I wanted to ask you, when did you start to develop this belief that maybe raw is better? I mean, have you always felt that way?
No, as a matter of fact, I'll just tell the
Interesting.
little story of how I got here.
Okay. I'd love to hear that.
And
Yeah.
I didn't have, actually, when I was in vet school, I thought I was going to be an equine surgeon, and that didn't happen. And I decided that I would rather have fun with horses than work with them. And then I went to my internship in DC, and in that practice was a veterinarian who was, she was a holistic vet, and every animal, mostly dogs, that came in that had a chronic skin condition or a chronic GI condition, she would put them on a homemade diet. And they all got better. She also did some other things. And so I have a scientific mind. And so I started, teasing those apart and trying just diet changes. And later in my career, there was a situation where an oncologist had developed a cancer diet. It was published, but it was not available commercially for some time. And so I started recommending something with a similar nutrient profile, macronutrient profile, which is very low in carbohydrates, high in fat, high in or moderate in protein. Started recommending a homemade diet like that to get the same macronutrient profile. And in this case, these dogs who were older, 10 to 12 to even 14 years old, and they had a fatal disease, cancer, they were coming back and looked better. And their owners were saying, my dog is acting like a puppy again. Why have I not been doing this from the very beginning? And this is something we saw over and over again. My dog is acting like a puppy again. That is how I became a believer, because I started then using this sort of homemade at that point. And then ultimately when raw became a more available choice, I started using more raw on all kinds of conditions. So again, it was skin disease and GI problems, but also we would see lab work before the dogs were actually showing clinical problems like an elevated liver enzyme that's really, really, really common in older dogs. Put them on a raw diet and it would reverse, just completely normalize. And so I had so many examples of this that I just could not believe in raw at that point.
Wow. And to add to that, I was just reading in Nature magazine the other day, they are finding that in humans with glioblastomas, brain tumors, if in their research with mice, if they reduce the amino acid serine, S-E-R-I-N-E, those glioblastomas would stop growing.
Wow.
So there's so much. I love that you are what you eat and let food be thy medicine. I just think Janet and I were raised natural hygiene. My mother, we never were vaccinated.
Wow.
We were fasted when we were sick. She had distilled water trucked in because of the fluoride.
Hold on, non-pasteurized milk.
Right. We drove to get
I was raised on it too.
And remember the cream on the top?
Oh, love that.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
So when I have people coming in talking to me about natural, I'm like, listen, I walk the walk, I talk the talk.
Yeah.
I was raised that way 72 years ago. So, because a lot of times veterinarians get a lot of feedback, well, you don't want to do natural. Listen, don't even throw that at me, because I can trump you on natural any day of the week, you and your pet.
Yep.
But I love your experience with it, because I love when I have the food discussion with patients, and I still have clients that email me 6 years after I've been retired about this, and he's doing this, what should I do? And I said, let's look at food first. Because if I can keep these dogs and cats off drugs, and Dr. Wynn, while I'm on my soapbox, having an owner tell me that dog is playing with their toy again because I got it off steroids, is I go home like a proud peacock, because they're being steroided up the ass.
Yep.
Excuse my French. This is my podcast. I can swear.
I'm sorry, but everyone's prescribing medicine like candy.
Yep.
I know, for us too.
They tried to put me on that cholesterol lowering drug for something else, and I'm
And
like,
she didn't need it. Right.
Well, the poor things, they don't know better. I mean, they haven't had this experience, and theoretically there aren't the studies, so they don't know better. And, this is what we're trying to do, is to change that. But I think that you have to have had an experience to be living in that belief that food is your first approach. If you are eating something that is toxic or just plain not matched to your metabolic situation every single day, if you don't remove that first and fix that first, drugs are not going to fix it. So food is the first place to start to concentrate, and we're not taught that. And I think, that's too bad, because we need to be better at it.
Okay, this is a crazy pet owner question. So from what I can tell me if I'm wrong, most of the raw diets are soft.
Yeah.
Ish. And a big deal for me with kibble is, as a pet owner, I'm thinking it's, flossing, if you will, cleaning the teeth. Are there any dental issues with putting your pet on a soft raw diet?
That is really a fabulous question. And the first thing, I guess, at least what I know and what I've learned is that kibble isn't really all that good. It's not as bad as canned food, okay? But it's not great for preventing dental problems. If you really have a dog or a cat that has dental problems and somebody recommends a dry food, they should be recommending the prescription ones or the functional ones, because that kibble actually, either number one, is coated with a chemical that helps to slow tartar accumulation, or it's actually made so that it has fibers that do act kind of like dental floss. And so regular kibble doesn't help. The functional kibbles do help. In raw food, you will hear that raw food does help to prevent tartar accumulation and calculus. And I think that was absolutely true back in the days when raw food was mostly bones. There are safety issues with bones, right? And they can cause either tooth fractures with the big bones. So that isn't, even for the people who recommend bones, that's kind of not recommended very often anymore, the big bones, which they, I think they called recreational bones. If people are recommending bones, and again, I'm not doing it, but there are people who recommend bones, veterinarians in Australia specifically. These are softer bones like chicken necks and chicken wings. Those may have some utility and, some abrasion of the teeth. The problem is those can be swallowed whole and cause obstructions. They can actually lacerate. There's a report of them lacerating the, going through the esophagus and through to the aorta, and animal dropping dead. So this is why I don't recommend bones. Now, does a raw food that does not, or a raw diet plan that doesn't contain bones, have any benefit for preventing tartar? And the truth is, it still might, because some work saying that the oral microbiome of dogs and cats that are fed raw or canned foods that are high in protein and low in carbohydrates, this might sound familiar, low in carbohydrates, that oral microbiome is different than the oral microbiome of dogs and cats that are fed kibble. So we don't know. There's no work that I know of yet on that. But one thing I will say that this is microbiome work. Right now, there is this discussion about what's normal for the gut microbiome. And we have to remember that work, the normals, were established on dogs eating high carbohydrate kibbles. The same it's happening right now with oral microbiome. It's very new. We don't really know what's normal, but most dogs eat kibble. It's high in carbohydrates. That's going to be established as normal, and we don't know that that's normal.
Wow. Can I ask, you make cat raw diet too, raw diet for cats? Palatability is probably great, I would assume, for dogs and cats.
I know. No? That's such a problem, because cats...
Do you sell more dog than cat food?
Much more. More.
Okay.
Yeah, cat owners, the issue is that they don't talk to their vets as often about diet.
You're right, they don't.
Right, and so they tend to just do the whole throw a chicken breast at their cats, which is terrible. Cats need a complete and balanced raw diet every bit as much as dogs do. JC, it looks like you were going to say something.
Yeah.
No, I was probably just, graciously nodding along.
Okay.
Well, cats are a pain in the ass. Was
cats have a mind of their own. I think that's, as a cat owner, I don't want to do anything that's going to piss them off.
Yeah. And here's the problem. Cats, we really need to be dealing with them early in life because it's been proven that they develop their taste, their palate, as it were, early in life. And I believe, I can't remember, it's something like 9 to 12 weeks of age. So if you're
I
giving
remember reading that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're giving them kibble at that during that really critical development period, that's all they want to eat. So we really believe now, and I don't think I'm the only nutritionist saying this, there are probably other nutritionists saying this, that you need to give cats a variety of types of food formats. And so, yes, a little kibble, even though I don't recommend kibble for cats, but also canned diets of good quality, commercial raw. Give them a variety so that later in life you can continue to give this variety, because if they were raised on dry, you're really starting behind the game. And it's not impossible to make them eat things that are healthier for them. It's just harder.
So Dr. Wynn, my cats are our cats. They dine al fresco, if you know what I mean.
I don't. Please tell me.
Chipmunks,
Oh,
mice,
yes, right.
flying squirrels, you name it. But if you look right here on the floor, can you see that little silver? There's a silver tray.
Is that a butt?
It was my mother-in-law's, and that's what I feed the cats out of.
Oh,
It's very satisfying.
okay. But I always wondered, Dr. Wynn, when people would tell me, like I had to put the cat on a diet for allergy, a hypoallergenic diet. Oh, he won't eat canned. And after then I read that research, you're right, about 9 weeks, if they're not given that, they won't ever eat canned. I'm like, a cat that won't eat canned food, show him to me. But yeah, you're absolutely right.
Wow, my cats eat everything.
That's good.
I know, but
I will say that most people feed free choice dry, and that is the biggest problem. And so your biggest hope is if your cat is fed free choice dry, which we never recommend anymore. That's a really terrible way to feed your cat. But if they're fed free choice dry, the first thing you do is correct that. You get them where you just sort of compress the feeding time from 24 hours down to about a half an hour twice a day or 3 times a day. And once you have them there, it's a lot easier to introduce them to other types of food. But that free choice dry feeding, we
call that the free choice trough.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't need
that right now. But the thing is, I have 2. So how do I know who's eating what when?
Exactly. It's just terrible for so many reasons. We don't recommend it.
And I remember listening to a really great webinar by Dr. Deb Greco, internal medicine, and I love her.
Yeah.
And she was saying at the age of 8 and above, they should all be on wet food because they need the extra fluid in their system for the kidneys.
Yeah.
And that's always stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty good rule. If you're not feeding them canned or raw, commercial raw from the beginning, at least start later in life. But we've talked about how that's harder to do with cats. So
and pardon my ignorance, but does raw have a lot of liquid in it?
Yes. It's not quite as high, interestingly, as canned food, because generally raw food is higher in fat, which has its own benefits, but it's still much higher than kibble. So yes.
Okay.
Unless we're talking about freeze-dried raw, and then
that's like dry.
Yeah, it's like a whole nother.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. That would make sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going to transition my dog from kibble, commercial kibble, to raw. Do you have any recommendations how to make? I mean, my dog would transition in 10 seconds, but some dogs are a little more particular. So do you have any recommendations? Like, do you do half and half, or?
Well, you do have to, unless you know for sure that your dog has an iron stomach, and I know this about my dog because I've lived with her for almost 14 years, but unless, if you don't know this, then you should do a gradual transition, and that kind of depends on the dog. But in general, you can start with 25% new diet, 75% old diet. Do that for a couple of days, then 50-50, do that for a couple of days, and then 75-25, do that for a couple of days. There are some dogs that require that you make 10% changes if they're really sensitive. And some dogs, it helps to start them on a probiotic a couple days before you start that change if they're really sensitive. So it does depend on the dog, but you can be really conservative, start the probiotic and do it in 10% increments, or you can start and do that day by day by day, or the 25% increments and do it for a couple of days at each level.
Very cool.
Alice, the slower or the more sensitive the pet, the lower you go.
Yeah.
It's just
That makes sense,
Yeah.
right?
I just have to say something to Dr. Wynn and JC. Is it just me, or do all elderly women that own little poodles, the poodle only eats cooked chicken? I mean, think about it, Dr. Wynn, when you were in practice. Well, what does he eat? Oh, I cook him chicken.
Yeah.
Now it's rotisserie chicken, because back then we didn't have rotisserie
Which is
chicken.
shot up with a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And then our older sister, who just moved to Nashville,
Oh,
she has
God.
a pit rescue. And I'll say, what are you feeding, buddy? Oh, rotisserie chicken. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I know. Well, she also cooks broccoli and stuff like that, and gives him pet food too. But I don't know what it is about elderly people and cooked chicken. I swear to God.
It's babying them partly, and
I know. Food is love.
it is. And the other thing, the studies say that over 60% of dogs and cats in the U.S. are overweight, and most of them severely overweight. So, that what happens is that those dogs and cats, they try their best to sort of push away from the table. And when they do that, it looks like they're being picky. And this is how it started. Oh, you don't want to eat all of the whole bowl full of kibble I put down for you? Well, let's add some chicken to that to make it taste better. So that's how it starts. And people don't know that their dogs and cats are overweight. And so it's a misinterpretation. And sometimes that takes retraining.
And you're right, because they see them every day.
Yeah.
So that becomes the norm for them. And then, for example, when you and I haven't seen them, like they're in for their yearly checkup, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, what happened? Or did they become hypothyroid, or what's going on? Yeah, it's noticeable to people that haven't seen them for a while.
And they also don't know what overweight looks like. That has been what some of the studies say. They don't, because they don't have good examples. I mean, we know from a study or two that show dogs, like for instance, labs, are overweight. The judges are putting up overweight dogs. Yeah. And in fact, I talked to a nutritionist last week who shows dogs, and he said that he had to make his dog overweight to get the dog finished as a champion. Yeah. So unfortunately, there are bad examples, and we don't have good examples to teach people what normal weight looks like.
And I also don't think people realize the calories in treats.
The
calories, and I'm going to say it again, and I've said it before on the show. I use the food as treats here, but my husband bought these treats. There were high sodium, but kind of, the soft and moist ones. And I had to have my dog worked up for everything on the planet when they were high sodium, and she was peeing all because of that.
Oh, wow.
So, people don't realize that they're not all healthy.
Yeah, some of them are extremely highly processed and unhealthy, and there is a rule.
Lunchables.
Yeah, exactly. There is a rule that everybody should know about, and that is that treats should not constitute more than 10% of the daily caloric intake. And I realize that that's kind of it's not very practical for most people, but honestly, most people should be counting calories for their dogs and cats. That's something that we really. I had a hard time. I wasn't counting calories for myself until I was in my 50s. But honestly, people should be counting calories, because this is one of the, aside from dogs and cats being overweight, it's one of the most common questions that I got when I said you need to change. They tell me how much, and I have to ask how many calories are they getting, because that's the only way to get them switched over and guarantee they're not going to gain weight. But nobody ever knew.
And they're all using the cup to measure. But show me the cup, because your cup could be different than my cup.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
People,
Some of them
said math is complicated, not only for the consumer, but I think it's complicated for a lot of folks, even in vet med. So really understanding, nutrition math, understanding how to read the label, how to even calculate, how many calories your animal actually needs. And then being able to measure that correctly is a full skill, and
absolutely.
And most folks miss that, or they get that confused, or they're reading the label and it looks like it's really low in fat because it's full of moisture, and supposed to how to convert that to dry matter or grams per kcal. So there's still a lot of, I think, confusion about that just feeds into the whole overfeeding dilemma that we have.
Well, and look at the trust that we're putting in the pet food that we're feeding these pet children that we have. I mean, you put it in the bowl a couple times a day and you walk away and do your regular life stuff. There's a lot of faith that we have that we're giving them what they need. And I think that's a big responsibility of any pet food company. And that's why I love when Dr. Wynn is saying about the research. Research and quality control, A and B, totally have to be there. Have to be there.
Well, it's a lot like human medicine. You know, we're eating too much overly processed food, right?
Yes, and the marketing for that is, you know,
Insane.
I was in the grocery store. There's 5 different flavors of Cheerios right now
Oh,
because
more
pumpkin
than
spice
that.
is limited. Look at the sugar in that. They think, oh, it helps with your cholesterol. Yeah, but guess what? Sugar doesn't help with your high cholesterol.
Yeah.
Well, and just put protein on the box.
Yeah, exactly.
And people think it's healthy, so it's overprocessed. And
The buzzword now.
and what percentage of the population, the human population, is obese or overweight?
Oh,
And
please.
Yeah.
Stand in the grocery line and look at the groceries and look at the person.
Oh,
1 + 1 = 2.
yeah.
I'm always
This is
fascinated.
why you look like that, because that's what you're eating.
No, but in the Costco line, like people are buying 8 boxes of cereal, and I'm like, I don't
know.
buy 8 boxes in a year.
Or Fanta.
Oh,
yeah.
oh.
I love the word Fanta.
Can you imagine?
Remember
if
the
you had to
Fanta
do that?
commercial? They had the 3 ladies dancing. Somebody I know did that for their Halloween costume one year. 3 of them.
God. Anyway, before we go, Dr.
We
Wynn
gotta
and
wrap it
JC,
up.
we need to hear about your pets.
Yep.
Who has what and what are their names?
JC, do you want to go
goodness.
ahead?
Oh, well, I have a 17-year-old poodle.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Who eats
Hopefully
chicken?
doesn't cook chicken.
Eats rotisserie chicken. Yep, we got you. Yep.
pretty much a raw her whole life. And then I have a 13-year-old poodle, same thing. I have 3 cats that are totally pains in the asses. And
That's a compliment.
I know, but they eat everything. They eat frozen raw, freeze-dried raw, canned, a little bit of kibble. I learned that real quick and fast because I didn't want to cause any more stress for myself. And then I have 2 giant French slop bunnies that I have trained.
Oh, you have bunnies.
We had pet bunnies.
Yeah, and they're
Yes, we did.
adorable. And so, you know,
Do they run around your house free and use
Yes.
the litter box?
yes, they're
Love that.
Oh
potty
my gosh.
trained, and they're bigger than my dog, so it's hilarious.
Oh,
In the morning, I have my coffee, and I look down, and they sit on my feet as a protest until I give them a banana. And so,
Well,
I
don't.
love their little feet,
Yeah.
the rabbit feet.
yeah. So
But
they're
don't
the
tell our mom.
French lot.
But ours used to poop underneath the round tablecloth.
Oh, really? I didn't remember
Oh,
that.
remember the green one with the balls on the bottom, the fringe? They used to poop under there.
I had a pet rabbit in pharmacy school, but I couldn't let him out because he wanted to chew the electrical cord.
Oh yeah,
They're definitely chewers. You gotta know what you're doing.
Yeah.
but they're so cute.
Yeah.
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 Dr. Wynn, what do you have?
Well, I have 2 cats, and they were eating raw until one of them. I started them out at 5 or 6 years old. Started them out in canned food, and one of them had food allergies from before then. So then switched them to raw, which they had been eating for 5 years. The one that had food allergy, eventually I could not feed him anything but one canned food or a homemade double.
Yeah.
And then I have a 14-year-old German Shepherd who's eaten either homemade or raw most of her life. And how many 14-year-old German Shepherds do you know who are still
Yeah.
walking around? So
Yeah.
I don't.
yeah,
Yeah.
Kudos to you both.
Wow.
Kudos, seriously.
we believe.
Well, I'm
Wow.
in trouble for having the trough feeding.
Yeah, you.
Nuts.
It's
And
called
Jan,
easy.
and I have to say, Janet's cats both have paunches.
Oh
It's
no!
sexy. It's a sexy look.
No, it isn't.
It goes like this.
Yeah, I know.
Oh goodness.
But the doctor said they're not over. They're fine.
Listen, I got to change who you're going to.
Yeah, no. Most doctors don't. Most veterinarians also don't know what normal looks like these days. Unfortunately.
But I have to say something. Atticus, the male cat, was never sleek and sexy.
Well,
He always had a little
that's a problem.
man bod. Even
Man
though he's a
bod.
kitten.
Are you sure they neutered him completely and there's nothing hanging there?
He has a cat bod.
Okay.
Well,
Anyway,
we can't.
we got to wrap it up.
Enough. We really. This has been super informative. But we have one more question we ask all our guests, and
Okay.
that is, I'm going to ask Dr. Wynn first so JC can think about it.
Okay.
What is your pet or human peeve? Like,
mean-
what just gets you?
Oh,
It doesn't have to be about veterinary medicine. It can be
Like,
about
this
anything.
is what gets me. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I mean, just because we were just talking about it and I did not know about this question, I'm going to have to say the picky pets. People who insist that their pets will only eat cheesecake. That actually happened. A border collie that would only eat cheesecake. So, yeah, that would be my pet peeve.
Well, I have a question. Did they want it with the chocolate sauce on top?
No chocolate for pets.
Right.
Wow. That you
That's a
you
good
top me,
one.
Dr. Wynn. I can't top that one.
We haven't heard that one. No.
No.
J-
JC, what's
JC,
your pet
what
peeve?
bugs you?
oh, goodness. I'm neurospicy. Everything bugs me.
Neuro spicy.
Yeah, that's an easy thing. Probably just like sometimes the lack of education. If I hear like one more, well, I saw it on TikTok. I read it on,
Oh.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, great. Did you check it? And I have a big heart. I mean, I want people to just do the best that they can. And not everyone can afford great food. And I don't want anyone to feel shameful about their choices about food. I want them to feel empowered and do the best that they can.
Right.
But education is key. Your only way out is through great education. So that's really important.
I totally agree with that.
Cats that you said that because that's going to go away.
There's
Yeah.
the cat. Anyway, we will have a link to Instinct on the show notes. And I can't thank you guys enough. I was looking forward to this so much because I had so many questions. And I, like I said, I love Instinct's website because they have webinars and a lot of blogs with information. So thank you guys for guesting today. It's been
you.
wonderful.
Thank
It's
you
really
so much for letting
informative.
us talk about what we love.
Hey, thanks for watching.
And listening.
We like likes.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can follow us on social media at Speaking of Pets.
And give your pets a big kiss from the Novotny sisters.
The Speaking of Pets podcast is an SLA video production.